Hello, this is Miss Yetter, and we are on Hollow City. We are continuing our saga with Hollow City, which is the second novel in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. We are on chapter 13, part 3. Chapter 13, part 3. And we are at the very top of page 382. And we are going to begin with What a Joke. What a joke, she said. You're nothing but power-hungry sadist. I know you're all quite sheltered and uneducated, said Call. But did your emblems not teach you about our people's history? We peculiars used to be like gods roaming the earth, giants, kings, the world's rightful rulers. But over the centuries and millennia, we've suffered a terrible decline. We mixed with normals to such an extent that the purity of our peculiar blood has been diluted almost to nothing. And now look at us, how degraded we've become. We hide in these temporal backwaters, afraid of the very people we should be ruling, arrested in a state of perpetual childhood by this confederacy of busybodies, these women. Don't you see how they've reduced us? Are you not ashamed? Do you have any idea of the power that's rightfully ours? Don't you feel the blood of giants in your veins? He was losing his cool now, going red in the face. We aren't trying to eradicate peculiardom. We're trying to save it. Is that right? Said the clown, and then walked over to Cal and spat right in his face. Well, you've got a twisted way of going about it. Cal wiped the spit away with the back of his hand. I knew it would be pointless to reason with you. The emblems have been feeding you lies and propaganda for hundreds of years. Better, I think, to take your souls and start again fresh. Miss Wren returned. He speaks the truth, she says. There must be 50 soldiers out there, all of them armed. Oh, moaned Bronwyn. What are we to do? Give up, said Cal. Go quietly. It doesn't matter how many of them there are, Althea said. They'll never be able to get through all my ice. The ice I'd nearly forgotten. We were inside a fortress of ice. That's right, Cole said brightly. She's absolutely right. They can't get in, so there's a quick and painless way to do this. Where you melt the ice voluntarily right now, or there's the long, stubborn, slow, boring, sad way, which is called a siege, where for weeks and months my men stand guard outside while we stay in here quietly starving to death. Maybe you'll give up when you're desperate and hungry enough, or maybe you'll start cannibalizing one another. Either way, if my men have to wait that long, they'll torture every last one of you to death when they get in, which inevitably they will. And if we must go the slow, boring, sad route, then please, for the sake of the children, bring me some trousers. Althea fetched the man some damn trousers, said Miss Wren, but do not, under any circumstances, melt this ice. Yes, ma'am, replied Althea, and she went out. Now, said Miss Wren, turning to Cal, here's what we'll do. You tell your men to allow us safe passage out of here, and we'll kill you. If we have to do it, I assure you we will, and we'll dump your stinking corpse out a hole in the ice, a piece at a time. Well, I'm sure your men won't like that much. We'll have a very long time to devise our next move. Cal shrugged and said, Oh, all right. Really? Miss Wren said. I thought I could scare you, he said, but you're right. I'd rather not be killed. So take me to one of these holes in the ice, and I'll do as you've asked and shout down to my men. Althea came back in with some pants and threw them at Cal. Andy put them on. Miss Wren appointed Bronwyn, the clown, and the folding man to be Cal's guards, arming them with broken icicles. With their points aimed at his back, we proceeded into the hall. But as we were bottlenecking through the small, dark office that led to the Emblem meeting room, everything went wrong. Someone tripped over a mattress and went down, and then I heard a scuffle break out in the dark. Emma lit a flame just in time to see Cal dragging Althea away from us by the hair. She kicked and flailed while Cal held a sharpened icicle to her throat and shouted, "Stay back, or I drive this through her jugular." We followed Cal at a careful distance. He dragged Althea, thrashing and kicking, into the meeting hall, and then up onto the oval table, where he put her in a chokehold. The icicle held an inch from her eye, and shouted, "These are my demands." Before he could get any further, though, Althea slapped the icicle from his hand. It flew and landed point down in the pages of the maps of days. While his mouth was still forming an O of surprise, Althea's hand latched into the front of Cal's pants, and the O broadened into a grimace of shock. "Now," Emma bellowed, and she and I and Bronwyn rushed toward them through the wooden doors. But as we ran, the distance across the big room seemed to yawn, and in seconds the fight between Althea and Cal had taken another turn. Cal let go of Althea and fell to the table, his arms stretched and grasping for the icicle. Althea fell with him, but did not let go, now had both hands wrapped around his thigh, and a coating of ice was spreading quickly across Cal's lower half, paralyzing him from the waist down and freezing Althea's hands to his leg. He got one finger around the icicle and then his whole hand, and groaned with effort and pain. He wrenched it free from the map and twisted his upper body until he had the point of it poised above Althea's back. He screamed at her to stop and let him go and melt the ice, or he'd plunge it into her. We were just yards from them now, but Bronwyn caught Emma and me and held us back. Cal screamed, Stop this," as his face contorted in pain, the ice racing up his chest and over his shoulders. In a few seconds, his arms and hands would be encased too. Althea didn't stop, and then Cal did it. He stabbed the icicle into her back. She tensed in shock, then groaned. Miss Wren ran toward them, screaming Althea's name while the ice that had spread across most of Cal's body began very quickly to recede. By the time Miss Wren reached them, he was nearly free of it, but then the ice everywhere was melting too, fading and retracting just as quickly as Althea's life was. The ice in the attic dripping and raining down through the ceiling just as Althea's own blood ran down her body. She was in Miss Wren's arms now, slack going. Bronwyn was on the table, Cal's throat in one hand, his weapon crushed to snow in her other. We could hear the ice in floors below us melting too, and then it was gone from the windows. We rushed to look out and could see water flooding from lower windows into the street. where soldiers in gray urban camo were clinging to lampposts and fire hydrants to keep from being washed away by the icy waves. Then we heard their boots stomping on the stairs below and coming down from the roof above. And moments later, they burst in with their guns, shouting. Some of the men wore night vision headsets, and all of them bristled with weapons. Compact machine guns, laser-sighted pistols, combat knives. It took 3 of them to pry Bronwyn away from Cal, who wheezed through his half-crushed windpipe. "Take them away, and don't be gentle." Miss Wren was shouting, begging us to comply. "Do as they say, or they'll hurt you." But she wouldn't let go of Althea's body, so they made an example of her. They tore Althea away and kicked Miss Wren to the ground, and one of the soldiers fired his machine pistol into the ceiling just to scare us. When I saw Emma about to make a fireball with her hands, I grabbed her by the arm and begged her not to. "Don't, please don't. They'll kill you." And then a rifle butt slammed into my chest and I fell gasping to the floor. One of the soldiers noosed my hands together behind me. I heard them counting us, Cal listing our names, making sure even Millard was accounted for, because of course by now, having spent the last 3 days with us, he knew all of us, knew everything about us. I was pulled to my feet and we were all pushed out through the doors into the hallway. Stumbling along next to me was Emma, blood in her hair, and I whispered, "Please, just do what they say." And though she didn't acknowledge it, I knew she'd heard me. The look on her face was all rage and fear and shock, and I think pity too, for all I just had snatched away from me. In the stairwell, the floors and stairs below were a whitewater river, a vortex of cascading waves. Up was the only way out. We were shoved up the stairs through a door and into strong daylight onto the roof. Everyone wet, frozen, frightened into silence. All but Emma. "Where are you taking us?" she demanded. Cal came right to her and grinned in her face while a soldier held her cuffed hands behind her. "A very special place," Cal said, "where not a drop of your peculiar souls will go to waste." She flinched and he laughed and turned away, stretching his arms above his head and yawning. From his shoulder blades gutted a weird pair of knobby protrusions like the stems of aborted wings, the only outward clue that this twisted man bore any relation to an embryo. Voices shouted from the top of another building, more soldiers. They were laying down a collapsible bridge between rooftops. "What about the dead girl?" one of the soldiers asked. "Such a pity, such a waste," Cal said, clucking his tongue. "I should have liked to dine on her soul. It's got no waste on its own, the peculiar soul," he said, addressing us. "Its natural consistency is a bit gelatinous and pasty, really, but whipped together with a soup con of malleable and spread upon white meat, it's quite palatable." Then he laughed very loudly for a long time as they led us away one by one over the wide collapsible bridge. I felt a familiar twinge in my gut, faint but strengthening, slow but quickening. The hollow gas, unfrozen now, coming slowly back to life. 10 soldiers marched us out of the loop at gunpoint, past the carnival tents and sideshows and gaping carnival goers, down the rat's warren of alleys with their stalls and vendors and ragamuffin kids staring after us, into the disguising room, past the piles of cast-off clothes we'd left behind, and down into the underground. The soldiers prodded us along, barking at us to keep quiet, though no one had said a word in minutes, to keep our heads down and stay in line or be pistol-whipped. Cal was no longer with us. He had stayed behind with the larger contingent of soldiers to mop up, which I think meant scouring the loops for hiders and stragglers. The last time we saw him, he was pulling a pair of modern boots and an army jacket and told us he was absolutely sick of our faces but would see us on the other side, whatever that meant. We passed through the changeover and forward in time again, but not to a version of the tunnels I recognized. The tracks and ties were all metal now, and the lights in the tunnels were different. Not red incandescent from flickering fluorescent tubes that glowed a sickling green. Then we came out of the tunnel and onto the platform, and I understood why. We were no longer in the 19th century, nor even the 20th. The crowd of sheltering refugees was gone now, the station nearly deserted. The circular staircase we'd come down was gone too, replaced by an escalator. A scrolling LED screen hung above the platform. Time to next train, 2 minutes. On the wall was a poster for a movie I'd seen earlier in the summer, just before my grandfather died. We'd left 1940 behind. I was back in the present. A few of the kids took note of this with looks of surprise and fear, as if afraid they would age forward in a matter of minutes. But for most of them, I think the shock of our sudden captivity was not about to be trumped by an unexpected trip to the present. They were worried about having their souls extricated, not about developing gray hair and liver spots. The soldiers corralled us in the middle of the platform to wait for the train. Hard shoes clicked toward us. I risked a look over my shoulder and saw a policeman coming. Behind him, stepping off the escalator, were 3 more. "Hey," Enoch shouted, "policeman over here." A soldier punched Enoch in the gut, and he doubled over. "Everything good here?" said the closest policeman. "They've taken us prisoners," said Bronwyn. "They aren't really soldiers, they're..." And then she got a punch in the gut too, though it didn't seem to hurt her. What stopped her from saying more was the policeman himself, who took off his mirrored sunglasses to reveal stark white eyes. Bronwyn shrank back. "A bit of advice," the policeman said. "No help is coming to you. We're everywhere. Accept that, and this will all be easier." Normals were starting to fill the station. The soldiers pressed in on us from all sides, keeping their weapons hidden. A train hissed into the station, filled with people. Its electric doors whooshed open, and a glut of passengers spilled out. The soldiers began pushing us toward the nearest car, the policeman going ahead to scatter what few passengers remained inside. "Find another car," they barked. "Get out." The passengers grumbled, but complied. But there were more people behind us on the platform trying to push into the car, and a few of the soldiers who'd been ringing us had to break away to stop them. And then there was just enough confusion, the doors trying to close, but the police holding them open until a warning alarm began to sound. The soldiers shoved us forward so hard that Enoch tripped, sending other children tripping over him in a chain reaction. That the folding man, whose wrists were so skinny he'd been able to slip his cuffs, decided to make a break for it and ran. A shout rang out, then a second, and the folding man tumbled and splayed onto the ground. The crowd swarmed away in a panic, people screaming and scrambling to escape the gunshots, and what had been merely confusion deteriorated into total chaos. Then they were shoving us and kicking us onto the train. Beside me, Emma was resisting, making the soldier who was pushing her get close. Then I saw her cuffed hands flare orange, and she reached behind her and grabbed him. The soldier crumpled to the ground, shrieking. A hand-shaped hole melted through his camo. Then the soldier who was pushing me raised the butt of his gun and was about to bring it down on Emma's neck when some instinct triggered in me, and I drove my shoulder into his back. He stumbled. Emma melted through her metal cuffs, which fell away from her hands in a deformed mass of red-hot metal. My soldier turned his gun on me now, howling with rage, but before he could fire, Emma came to him from behind and clapped her hands around his face, her fingers so hot they melted through his cheeks like warm butter. He dropped the gun and collapsed, screaming.